Okay, great. You can hear me. Glad to hear it. Okay, organizing your iPhone's home screen. Everybody's home screen is a matter of personal preference. And as a part of that, we interact with our phones all day, every day, and we tend to personalize them to our own preferences. More importantly, we become very accustomed to where our favorite apps are located because those are the ones we go to all the time. The more we use our phones, the more muscle memory we acquire about what apps are located where. Some people memorize the layout of all the apps on all of their home screens. For those of us who use VoiceOver, how the home screen is arranged is even more important. We can't just glance at our screen to find the icon for the app that we're looking for. We have to listen to what VoiceOver says as we navigate around the page in order to help us find it. Virtually all of us have a full combination of apps that Apple included with the phone when we bought it. Add to that any of the additional apps for all the things that we do find important and interesting individually. And that includes everything from accessibility apps to productivity tool apps, news apps, vendor apps, even games. Let's face it, our phones are the modern day multi tool for managing, or dare I say, MacGyvering our lives. Any of us who use VoiceOver know you have to first find the app that you want to change the focus of VoiceOver to find that app. So you have to move around and change the focus on the phone so that VoiceOver knows where you want it to focus. And then you can double tap to activate or open that app. So it's particularly important that we get to our apps quickly and accurately, because if they're all over the place, it's difficult to locate them and to get there quickly. Now, Apple's current iPhone home screen architecture has space for 4 apps on what is known as the dock at the bottom of the phone display. Now, the dock stays constant. It doesn't matter if you have one home screen or 6 home screens. Those 4 apps on the bottom are always the same apps. They're always there. Each home page can hold a maximum of 24 apps on each page. The icons for these apps are arrayed on the page in the form of a grid that is 4 columns wide and 6 rows deep. That grid layout helps facilitate the organization of the apps, and it allows us to use VoiceOver to move among those apps on the grid. Now, those numbers, 42, or probably 24 on a page, assume that you aren't using any widgets, which we're going to get to widgets here in a little bit. But I say that because widgets can take up the space of 4 or 8 or even 16 normal sized app icons. So if you're using any widgets, that's going to take up a lot of real estate on each of the respective home pages. How many apps do we have? Well, that's going to be different for every person. But Apple includes 42 native apps on our phones when we first purchased them. And those apps are all free and they come pre-installed. And while all of those native apps might appeal to the masses, and many of them are quite important to our daily use, not all of them have meaning or value to everyone. Those apps include the App Store, Books, Calendar, Calculator, Camera, Clock, Compass, Contacts, FaceTime, Files, Find My, Fitness, Freeform, Health, Home, Image Playground, da 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 da. I know you thought I was going to read them all, but since I used up so much time earlier, I'm not going to do that. But as a result, even if you never added any other apps from the App Store for any other reason, you've already got enough apps on your phone to fill up one homepage completely and half of another one. And that doesn't include any of the other Apple productivity apps like Pages, Numbers, Keynotes, or some of their other apps that they have available called Clips, GarageBand, iMovie, Support, and the Apple Store, all of which are also made by Apple. They just don't automatically ship those. They're a little kind to us. They leave a few of them out. But then once we get our hands on our new phones, we start adding all the apps that we want from the App Store. And each time we add a new app, the icon for that app will generally be placed on the next available spot on the grid. which can be on any homepage. As people with blindness or low vision, we are bound to have at least a few apps that we would add to our phones to enhance their versatility. A number of these are what I call the apps you should know. This would include apps like Seeing AI, Be My Eyes, Bard, NFB Newsline, things like that. Not to mention any wayfinding apps or OCR apps. Now, finding our apps. Because our phones have become those virtual multi-tools I was talking about, and when I say that, think Swiss Army knife, okay? That allows us to MacGyver our way through life. It's essential that we know how to find the right app when we need it. And finding that right app quickly when you cannot glance at the screen means using one of three common methods to hear VoiceOver tell you which app currently has the focus. The quick overview of those three options. Option one, we can use what I like to call the drag and hunt method to explore the home screen by dragging a single finger around on the screen to locate the app we want. However, that method can only save you time if you know which page of your home screens that particular app is located on and where on the screen that app is located. So if you think about it, if it's on screen 2 and it's up near the top, then you can drag finger around on the top of page 2. But one other problem with that approach is that I've seen happen a lot is when you might explore what you think is every app on a given page, and you think you've covered everything, but you simply have missed the app while you're trying to locate it. You've dragged your finger around, but you've gone all the way around it, and you still haven't landed on the one that you were looking for. So that approach requires that you have a really good idea of the general location of the app you're looking for. Option two, using the swiping gestures, swiping right or swiping left, to move from one app to another along the grid. Swiping right moves to the next app, either to the right of our current position or down if we're to the beginning of the next row when we reach column 4 of the current row. So there's only 4 columns, so you get to column 4, you swipe right, there isn't a column 5, so it wraps down to the next row. Swiping left does the reverse. So it'll continue to swipe left to the prior app until you're all the way to column 1, and then if you haven't found what you're looking for, it goes up to the next row. Now, one benefit of that approach is that you'll be sure to hit and hear every app on the page without missing any of them. But that can still take a while to find what you're looking for. Option number 3 is to memorize the home screens. That option requires you to know exactly how many home screens you have and how all of the apps are arranged on each page. That also means that you must have a mental catalog in your mind about which page a given app is located on. That option is basically used to some extent by all of us. It's only natural over time for us to recall where a given app is located. But none of those choices is really all that efficient unless you have an extraordinarily good memory and can memorize everything. And if you're trying to find apps that you use all the time, trying to move around to the second or the third or the fifth page to get to it can be very, very time consuming. So we want to make things efficient. Given all the effort that it takes to find the right app in the right location on the right homepage, it just makes sense that we should organize our apps on the screen in a way that makes it relatively fast and easy to locate the apps that we use the most. For that reason, I highly recommend sorting your apps on the home screens according to which apps you use the most. Remember that the Go Home gesture, swiping up from the bottom of the screen or pressing the home button, depending upon which model of phone you have, generally takes you to the first home screen. If it doesn't take you to the first home screen the first time you use the gesture, it will the second. Okay? Now, some consistency things for efficiency. The dock. Like I said earlier, the dock has 4 apps on it, and those 4 apps never change, no matter what homepage you're on. Those 4 apps should be the ones that you use the most. They stay put, regardless of which screen you're on, so they are constantly there if you need them, and they're within easy reach of your fingers from the bottom of the screen. Now, for many people, those 4 apps will typically include phone, mail, and messages, because those are the three key ways that you use the phone for communication purposes. Maybe Safari, and Safari is the web browser that comes on your iPhone. But these should all four be the ones that you find that you use the most. If you use a different app more frequently than you do messages or more frequently than you do Safari, so be it. But those four should be the ones that you use the most. After those first four on the home pages, my recommendation is to put the next group of apps that you use the most on the first or primary home screen. In addition to putting them on that page, I recommend that you sort them on the page in descending order from top to bottom, with the most frequently used apps on the top row, and then the next row, and so on. Why am I recommending that? Remember that when you use the home gesture, it moves you to the top left position of the grid on the home screen number 1. That's where VoiceOver defaults the focus when you go home and use that home gesture. So that's your starting point, whether you use the swipe method or the drag and hunt method to begin your search for your desired app. So by sequentially listing the apps in order of importance and frequency use from there, you make it the easiest for you to find the apps that you need quickly. Once you fill up the first home page, you can then continue the process on the next page. Remember, it takes a 3-finger swipe in order to move from one page to the next on any of the home screens. Now, okay, so that's how I might suggest you rearrange them, but then the question becomes, what do you do about apps that you don't use? Well, the ideal situation is to declutter your home screen so that you don't have to worry about the apps that you're not going to use, so that they're not in the way. They're not in the way when you use the swipe gesture to move through. You don't have to keep passing through them to get to the one you do want. And they're not in your way if you're using the drag and hunt method. You're also easier to memorize your screens if you don't have those apps that you don't use in the way. So the first step in the cleanup process is to move the apps that you don't use out of the way. That means either removing them to the app library on your phone, where you can still access them if you ever need to, or deleting them from your phone. As I noted earlier, Apple includes 42 apps when they ship the phones. Many people don't use all of them. And people with limited or no eyesight may not have a use for several of those apps. Well, then there's the apps that either we downloaded at some point because we thought it might be cool or fun or interesting, only to find that they were a waste of our time. And then I can't tell you how many of my clients have said that their child or their grandchild or somebody had downloaded an app on their phone, quote, for them, thinking that it was going to be of use to them, or possibly they were given the phone by another family member, kind of a hand-me-down kind of thing, by a friend or a family member, and those apps were simply already there. And they still didn't know what those apps were for. They didn't use them, and they didn't know anything about them. So often those apps are just cluttering up your screen and getting in the way of your ability to move to the apps swiftly and efficiently. So what do you do when you want to try to get rid of or remove those unused or unusable apps? You got two choices. One, you can move them to the app library on your phone. That option keeps the apps on the phone, but literally moves them out of the way. They don't stay on your home screen. They're only available to you through the app library. You can still access them through the app library, but they no longer take up the valuable space on your home screens. Okay. The next option is that you can actually delete them. When you delete them, you're deleting both the app icon and any of the data that's associated with that on your phone. Both of those choices are available when you use the remove command to remove an app from your home screen. Please remember something else. If you delete an app from your phone, that app is still associated with you and your Apple account. So Apple still has a record that you had previously downloaded it. So for example, if you bought an app and then you deleted it because you're trying to clean things up, but then you later realize that you really do want it over on your screen or on your home screen or in the app library, it's still associated with your Apple account. So you can still, when you go back out to the Apple store, you can still download it and you don't have to pay for it the second time. Okay. Now, how do you actually delete or remove an app? The recommended gesture to use to remove or delete an app is called the double tap and hold gesture. Simply put, you keep your finger on the screen when you tap it the second time. So you do a double tap with two quick taps, just like you would if you were trying to activate. But instead of lifting up your finger after the second tap, you keep your finger down on the screen. That gesture opens up the app context menu. Context menu. The two taps still need to be quick, just like an activate gesture. And when you do the gesture, by opening up that context menu, it gives you several choices to work from. Excuse me. Okay, now, once you activate the remove app option, well, hang on a minute, I skipped a bit there. That context menu includes multiple options for a given app. And the multiple options vary depending upon the app that you're using, because some of the apps, those context menus have some quick gesture capabilities. Others are very simple, but all of them, when you open that context menu, will have the option of remove app. That option of remove app for any of you who have residual vision is going to show up in red font if you're using normal color schemes on your phone. Okay. You will want, when that context menu pops up, it'll say, VoiceOver will tell you that you have options and you need to swipe right until you hear remove app. When you hear remove app, double tap. Once you activate that remove app option, there's going to be a pop-up screen that comes up onto the phone, and VoiceOver will announce, do you want to remove blank app? Blank fills in with whatever app it was that you ended up doing the double tap and hold gesture on. Then you will get a note that says, removing from the home screen will keep the app in your app library. So removing it keeps it in the library, but it removes it from the home screen. Below that are the options to remove from the home screen. That's one option. The second option is delete the app. And the third option is to cancel. You can swipe right to get to each of those three different options. The first option is just going to remove it to the home screen. The second, or pardon me, not to the home screen, to the app library. The second option will delete it. And then if you decide that you need to change your mind and you want to not do anything with it, then you just tap cancel. Once you've changed the focus over whichever one of those three options you want, you double tap and that option will happen. Now, if what you've highlighted when you go through is to remove the app, then that app will be removed from that home screen and it will move to the app library. So it's not on any home screen. If the one that you double tapped on was the delete option, then it will delete the app and you will get a confirmation pop up that says, are you sure you want to delete the app? Any data associated with this app will also be deleted. You'll need to double tap there as well. If you said cancel, then it's back as if you didn't double tap anything, as if you didn't try to go in and move anything. Now, repeating this process over and over with each of the different apps that are cluttering up the page will literally remove those apps off of the home pages that they're on. So if you started off with 24 on the first page and you deleted 3 or 4 of them, then let's say you deleted 4, you're down to 20 apps on that page. If on the second page you had 10 apps and you deleted 4 of those, then you'll have 6 apps still left on the second page. If you had a third page that had another 10 apps on it and you deleted 8 of those, you'll have two apps on that third page. So it doesn't move or scrunch together all of the remaining apps after you've removed or deleted the ones that are clutter. So then the question becomes, how do I go about moving the apps that I have? Because not only do you want to try to consolidate into the fewest number of home pages, but you also want to put them in that priority sequence order that we talked about just a few minutes ago. Well, the gesture to initiate moving the apps around is also the double tap and hold gesture. Once again, two taps need to be quick, just like an activate gesture. And when you tap that second time, you don't lift your finger up. You keep that finger down on the screen. Now, among the items that are on that context menu is the item Edit Home Screen. So when that context menu pops up, you can then use a single finger and swipe through until you hear Edit Home Screen. And like I said earlier, depending upon the app that's involved, there can be a varying number of items on that context menu. So you want to listen until you hear Edit Home Screen. You may have to swipe right several times until you hear that option. Once you locate the Edit Home Screen option in that context menu, double tap the screen to activate that option. When you do that, if you still have some residual vision, be forewarned, all of the apps will start to jiggle. Okay? And I mean jiggle. And with that little vibrating jiggle, I don't want you with your residual vision to think that something's going haywire with your vision. It's the apps. They are intentionally jiggling. In addition to them jiggling, up in the upper corner of them will be a little circle with a minus sign in it. If you still have some residual vision, you can use that minus sign. You can tap that minus sign, and it does the same thing as earlier where you're removing or deleting the app. But we're not interested in that at the moment. We're interested in trying to rearrange the apps that are there. VoiceOver will announce to you which app has the focus. You need to listen carefully to VoiceOver say that. Do not assume that it's on the app that you wanted. Move around if you have to, but find the app that you wanted to move. So listen carefully to what VoiceOver says and make sure that you navigate with single swipes, left or right, till you find the app that you wanted to move. VoiceOver will then announce the instructions for moving an app. And what that will announce is it will tell you to double tap and hold again to perform the move by hold and drag. So you did the double tap and hold the first time in order to get the app context menu to come up. Then you ended up swiping until you got the Edit Home Screen. Once you're on Edit Home Screen, everything's jiggling. And again, once you locate the app that you want to move, you do a double tap and hold then. And by hold, you keep your finger down on the app that you want to move. With your finger down on that app, you don't lift that finger until you have moved it to the new position where you want to place it. You can move apps around on a given page, and you can move them from one page to another page. Once you start moving it, VoiceOver will announce its new placement on the grid, and it will sound something like column row, column 3, row 5, or column 2, row 4. Those columns and row numbers correspond to which column, left to right, and row, top to bottom, the new location is. I want to pause for just a minute, let that sink in. We did a double tap and hold in order to get the context menu. We then swiped right through the context menu until we got to the spot that says Edit Home Screen. We then double tapped. Once you double tap on that, you need to move around to find the app that you want to move, and then you will do a double tap and hold to be able to drag that app to its new location. And when you get to the new location, VoiceOver is going to announce the grid placement by column and row number. Now, if you wish to move the icon to another page, what you need to do is to move your finger to the edge of the current screen in the direction that you want to move the icon. So in the example I gave you earlier, on page 3, after we decluttered and removed a number of other apps, there were only 2 left. So we probably want to move those 2 at least to the next home screen to the left, if not to the first home screen. So to do that, you would double tap and hold and then drag your finger to the left edge of your phone while still holding that app. With a little bit of a hesitation, the screen will change from that third page over to the second page in that example. And if you're not careful, if you're holding down your finger a lengthy amount of time, it's going to immediately move it all the way to the first home page because it moves fairly quickly. Okay. But if you wish to move it to another page, you just move your finger while still attached to the screen to either the left edge or the right edge. Okay. VoiceOver will also tell you options available. And as we all know from other places in VoiceOver, when it says options available, you can use a single finger to vertically swipe up or down to hear what those motion options are. Those options include things like deleting the app, okay, or stopping any moves. A number of different options are mentioned there. Now, when you're done moving your icons around, you need to move your one finger up to the upper right corner until you hear the Done button announced. And once you're on the Done button, you would double tap. Now, this is possible for those who are completely blind. It is possible for those with some residual vision, but it does take patience. And you do want to make sure that you give yourself plenty of concentration time without a lot of distractions, because trying to do this and being distracted in the middle of it, you could be putting icons in places you didn't want to put them. Okay. So I'm just warning you in advance. It is very possible. The gestures that I'm describing are not that difficult to do, but you want to make sure you're concentrating on what you're doing and that you have the time and the patience available to do it. Now, another thing to be realized is that some of us have a lot of apps. The simple method is to leave every app on a standalone basis, and that allows you to put 24 apps on each page. So if you've got 100 some odd apps, then you might have 4 or 5 pages, and every one is on their own. That's a lot to memorize and to try to remember where they are located. Well, Apple helps us to be able to deal with that by allowing us to create folders that can hold more than one app. Most of the time, people use folders to commingle apps that are of a similar nature. Okay? So you're grouping them together using that similar nature. And one example for it is to place several utility apps in a common folder and then calling that folder utilities. That way, if you know that what you're looking for is a utility, then instead of trying to literally just search for everything, you can find the folder that is entitled utilities. Okay, this is fairly easy to do, and sometimes it might even be too easy to do because it's possible, and I've seen people do it unintentionally. The process is accomplished when you move apps around. You move one icon for one app on top of one of the other icons. So if you're trying to move 2 apps together, let's say the compass and the measure app, which are both kind of utilities, you would literally move one of them, let's say the measure app, until it is over the top of one of the other apps. Now you might say, wait a minute, how can I do that when I don't have the vision to be able to see it? Well, VoiceOver actually announces to you if you've done that, and it will create the folder. So it announces that it has combined them and created the folder. If you still have some residual vision, you will see that as soon as you do overlap one app on top of another one, that a new little square box, rectangular box, will pop up around it, and there will be a name to come up above it. Okay? Now, folders can have a lot of different apps in them, and they can even have more than one page of display of apps to them. They don't have an entire page of 24. I believe that it's a total of it's either 9 or 16 that can be on a given page, and that may depend upon the size of the phone. But that's in a given page of the folder. And if there's more apps than that in that folder, then it can have a second page within that folder. The only purpose that I see for doing that is if the apps have a common theme, and it makes it easier for you to find the apps. But if you're not going to be able to get benefit out of combining things together into these folders, then it might be best for you to keep all of your apps separate so that you can easily find them using either the drag and hunt method or using the swipe gesture method to be able to locate them. That may mean that you have to group on some of the less common app pages or home pages, the apps that you're using less frequently, but maybe group them together according to the different types of app that they are. Now, to create a folder, once again, it's just like moving the apps around, but you move one app on top of another one. Those folder names, it's going to automatically create one for you, but those names are editable. You aren't stuck with it. And if you have the need to be able to change the name, you have the ability to go in and double tap and change the name. Okay. And once again, just like any of the other moving activities that we've done, once you're done, move to the upper right-hand corner and press the Done button. Let's go back and talk about widgets for a minute. A widget is a rectangularly shaped preview of key information for a given app. You can call it a snapshot view that allows someone who's sighted to get a few pertinent pieces of information with a glance. In my experience, some widgets are accessible with VoiceOver and others are not. And when I say that, I mean you can swipe through the different data elements that are on that particular widget. And the apps from the Apple Store or from Apple seem to be very accessible. But independently created widgets may be a roll of the dice. You may not get a lot of benefit from them. Okay? Widgets can also be access ports into the larger app itself. So if the information displayed on the widget isn't enough for you, then you can activate the widget using a double tap and it will open up the app itself. Now, as noted earlier, they take up a lot of real estate. They can range from as small as the space of 4 app icons, but other sizes exist, and that includes 8, which would be comprised of 2 rows of 4 apps because they're a horizontal bar. And there are some that are 16. They're comprised of both 4 columns and 4 rows. Now, in my opinion, those widgets are designed primarily for those who are sighted, who have enough residual vision to be able to see those little snippets of information. The different sizes of the widgets allow for more information on a given widget. One example might be the weather, okay, which at its smallest size will tell you the temp, the current conditions, and the forecasted high and low temps. But a larger weather widget, rather, will tell you the same info for the next several hours, and even a larger one will tell you the forecast for the next several days. For people that are blind or have very low vision, there appears to be much less benefit to having that sort of information at a glance. It takes more swipes to get through all of the information that's displayed on one widget, and that takes even more swipes to move on to the next app. It's a matter of personal choice, but to me, a person who is blind or visually impaired may be more likely to open up the app and get the detail that they want rather than look at or try to get the information from a widget. So in summary, Keep your home screens as uncluttered as possible. Remove the apps that you don't use or rarely use, either by removing them to the app library or deleting them altogether. Prioritize the placement of all the apps on your home screens according to the frequency of their use. That's my recommendation. Place the top 4 apps that you use down on the dock screen, and then place the rest of them in descending order from top to bottom on the first home page, and then the next home page, etc. Once you have the apps decluttered and rearranged by priority, then spend the time and the energy to learn which apps are where. It won't take you long because you're constantly going to the same ones over and over again. And use your own preferred combination of swiping or dragging and hunting or memorizing to make the most efficient use of the home screens. And then think twice before using the widgets. They may just be a matter of taking up more space. So now that I have gone through that, I want to go through and unmute everybody. If I can go through and do this. Anyone who wants to comment can feel free to unmute themselves. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody, or tell you that you can unmute yourself. Feel free to comment, ask a question.
Karen. I have a question.
Hi, Karen.
All right, if you delete an app and then you decide, I don't know, a few months later you want to get it back, like you said, um, I know I think it says re-download. So does all of your, if you had any information in there, will that come back as well or no?
I think that varies depending upon the app itself.
Okay.
And I say that because different manufacturers of different apps are going to have different ways in which they keep that data.
Okay.
So I don't have a pat answer for you, Karen.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
the thing about it is that if you do have any data that is directly associated with that app when you delete it, then that data is also removed from the phone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
And if you delete it and if you go to your settings and go to apps, or do you have to remove it from there too, or it will just automatically disappear?
Once you delete it, you don't have to do anything in settings. Now,
Oh, okay.
once you remove it, you also don't have to do anything. You can still access it from the app library. And just in case people don't remember where the app library is, let's for a minute make an assumption that you have 3 home screens of apps. So if you use the 3-finger swipe and you move to page 2 and then to page 3, and then you do another swipe, the app library is the last page to the right of all of the different app home pages that you have. And the way the app library works, it first displays things according to different types of apps, like games will be together, or communication will be together, or social will be together, that sort of thing. But at the very top, there is a search box. Just as soon as you tap the search box, all of the apps are listed in alphabetical order. And that includes the apps that are on the home screens. Okay, so it includes everything that's out there. And when you do that, you have an easier way of searching for through an alphabetical listing in order to find the apps that you're looking for.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. And from what I can recall, you cannot hide it. You can hide it, but it's not really hidden. Can you hide an app like with your own password?
Yes, so there is an ability in the more recent versions of the iOS for you to actually go into an app and make it password protected, so that you're hiding it and you're also making it so that um, it is password protected from anybody trying to get into it. Um, Some people like to do that with things that are particularly private to them if they use a way of keeping in information like access codes
Mm-hmm.
or things along that line. But there is an option for you to be able to do that. And that's also available on the context menu when you do the double tap and hold gesture.
That's available where?
Yes, it's on that list.
You said contacts?
Context. So the
Uh-huh.
context menu, when you do a double tap and hold on an app,
Uh-huh.
there is a context menu that comes up. And that context menu has the ability for you to be able to specify that you want that app to be password protected.
Oh, okay. Is it the Apple password or is it your own personal?
I
Or
think
is it
you
like
have
a
I
thing?
think you have the ability to assign your own password for it.
Oh, that's good. Because it wasn't like that before. It was like your
Now,
Face ID. Is
I
this
have not
okay?
well,
Well,
I have not used that before, but I believe that you can assign your own password.
okay.
And if I'm wrong on that, I apologize. Again, it's something I haven't used before,
Okay.
but I do know that it's available there.
Okay. Thank you. Because I just set up LastPass
Hmm.
and I wanted to hide it but lock it up as much as I could.
Okay.
I'm gonna try that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the group? Again, to unmute yourself, all you have to do is press Alt A, or if you're on a phone, you can also press *6.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. um, it's Gloria. Um, will you be sending a brief outline of what you just described or talked about?
Well, we can send out the recordings to everyone,
Yes.
and that can go out to everyone because I did start the recording at the beginning of the presentation today.
But
Now,
not a written email. Okay.
okay, now
Okay.
one of the things that I will say, because I know, Gloria, you have an iPad and others on the call might also have an iPad. These same instructions generally will work on an iPad, but the grid that I was describing, where it's 4 columns and 6 rows deep, that's specific to an iPhone. That grid is different on an iPad because the iPads have a different amount of real estate that is available to them. So you can get more, there's a bit more uh, real estate to be able to maneuver and arrange the icons on
I'm on.
the iPad. Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
I noticed too on my iPad, like you said, there's more real estate. So if I should use an app down, it will show around the home button on the dock. So I'll have my 4 favorite apps on the dock, but on the iPad, it will show the last app I used at the home, near the home button.
Yes, and that's one of the other key differences is that on an iPad, the dock can actually have more than just 4. And in addition to that, there's a segment that includes your most recently used apps that pops up, and that can also vary in size. So it depends upon how you have it set up in your settings, but that can identify or that can make those most recent apps readily usable to you from the dock.
Thank you.
This is Andrea.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi. Unfortunately, I couldn't get here till just a few minutes ago, so I'm glad to hear that there was going to be a recording shared. Will that go on the Second Sense tech list
Well,
for everyone or
what
specific?
I would do is send that out in an email to those of you who are on the call today.
I'm sorry, my Jaws was just talking. Um,
I
you
will
will
send
send
it
it
out
out.
to all of you who are on the call today.
Perfect, thank you. And then if you could clarify I understand the password protected, for more security. So the if the app, say it's my bank app,
Mhm.
I mean, I know which page it's on and where to find it on the screen. and of course I'm using VoiceOver. So if I don't want that visible, is there any way of still having the app active for my use, but not visible if somebody picked up my phone and they say, oh, this is the bench she uses?
Well, the best option that I have for you is that if you remove it from the home screen, it will still be in your app library.
Okay.
So if it's not on your home screen, then it's not readily visible to somebody who's just glancing at your phone. They would have to go to the app library and search through the list of apps that are in your app library. Now, that also means that you would have to go to the app library every time you want to open it up.
Correct. Yeah. No, that part I understand. Well, and then if it's not on the home screen, they would have to be able to unlock my phone in order to go to one of the other pages.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, and
okay,
and
I
depending
kind
upon
of
the way
answered
you're
my own question.
right, well, and then depending upon the way you have their settings on your phone set, um, just because, okay, so most people have the apps on the home screen, but the home screen is not on display most of the time. There is a lock screen that is on display most of the time. Okay. And that's the one that has the time and big numbers up at the top, and um, we'll have your notifications that'll pop up on you. But that's not a listing, or that's not the grid of apps. So they would have to unlock the phone in order to get to the grid of apps.
Okay, okay. I didn't realize that because I don't know what it looks like visually. Okay, well,
Okay.
that makes it
Yep.
okay.
So when you first tap your phone with a single tap and it starts to give you the time, right? That's pretty standard for everyone with an iPhone. That is called the lock screen. And underneath of it will be any notifications that you have from the notification center
Mhm.
or any appointments and things of that nature. Now, you have to, at that point, actually unlock the phone either with Face ID or with Touch ID or with a passcode when you want to go to the home screen. So if you do the swipe up from the bottom with one finger or you press the home button, either one, then one of those three security measures are typically in place in order to get to the home screen. If you don't have one of
Okay,
those three options in place, I would highly recommend that you put one of those three in place.
I do. But I did not realize that my page one of, my home screen, my was actually not visible. I just never, I guess if I really thought about it, I would realize that. So,
Okay,
okay, well, thank you so much.
sure. Now it is visible once you get there.
Yeah, right.
And the only other thing that I would throw out is that you always have the ability to invoke the curtain if you don't want people to see
Right.
what's on your phone. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with the curtain gesture?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
right. I
So
think
the
I never can remember if it's the three finger or the four finger. One or the other either silences it or puts a screen curtain on, but VoiceOver tells me. So
okay,
I
well,
can,
a three finger double tap, okay, will turn speech on and off.
okay.
But a three finger triple tap turns the screen curtain on and off.
Okay. I never can remember until I actually do it. And then I like, okay, it's not that one, so it's this one. So
Oh,
thank you.
you're
I
welcome.
got it. Three finger triple tap.
Three finger triple tap does the curtain, and
Right.
that does not slow down battery usage, but it does make it to where nobody can see what's on your screen. And if you're using headphones or earbuds or hearing aids that are connected to your phone, then you're the only person who's hearing it.
Correct. All righty. Thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions today?
Eric, this is James. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Your presentation, as always, was excellent. Thank you so much. My question is, if I create folders, which I have not done before, but now I think I know how to do that, am I able to arrange the icons within the folder using the
Yes.
same step? Okay, great.
Yes. So, two things about that, James, and it's a great question. You can rearrange within a folder which icons are in what sequence. using the same methodology of double tap and hold in order to move them around. Once they're in the folder, you're at that point just moving them in the folder. But your point is also well made that let's say you accidentally put it in the wrong folder and you want to
Yeah.
take it out of that folder and put it somewhere else. It's the same process. It's a double tap and hold, and then you drag your finger until you're out of the folder. VoiceOver will say you're leaving the folder and you're putting it
Okay.
back on the main screen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Now, the folders themselves that each have names,
Uh-huh.
when you're navigating around on the home screen, let's just for a minute say that you've created some folders and those folders are in existence on your home screen. You have the ability when you're doing your navigating to actually move just like you would through icons. You're moving your way through the folders. So I'm just going to use my own personal screen here as an example. I have one folder that says navigation. I have another one that says utilities and another one that says reference. When I'm using my finger to drag around, or if I'm using the swipe gesture, what gets announced is the folder name.
Okay.
And then once you've heard the folder name, you can double tap and enter the folder, and then you can move your finger around either by dragging around or by swiping to get to the other apps that are within that folder.
Right.
But the key thing is that when a folder, when VoiceOver comes across a folder instead of an app, it's going to announce the folder name.
Got it. Yeah.
Great. Are there any other questions today? All right, then. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As mentioned before, I will try to send out a set of the recording to everyone who was in attendance today. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.
You also, and thank you again.
All right. I am going to end the call now. So have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.